Hi, it's my pleasure to invite Harmeet Basur and Ridhima Sharma to this discussion on their two award-winning films in the non-fiction category. Harmeet's film is titled Chasing the Light, and Ridhima's film is titled Dil Toota Ashik or Heartbroken Lover. Very different films. Harmeet's film is in the professional category, Ridhima's is in the amateur category. And it's my pleasure to welcome them here to this discussion. These films are made as part of the PSBT COVID challenge, which was announced in 2020, and the films were completed in 2021. So, welcome, Harmeet and Ridhima. And we'd like to start, talking about your films here. So, Harmeet, first, let's start with you. Tell me a bit about yourself and how you decided to go about this film of yours called Chasing the Light.
I am a filmmaker slash cinematographer. In the earlier days, I did a lot of direction and camera and editing all together and doing. And at some point of time, at least last 5 to 8 years, I've been mostly doing cinematography. Most of my work is non-fiction, documentary. I've done a little bit of fiction work, but yes, it's been mostly documentary work that I've been working on. And as far as the film is concerned, well, it's last year was 2020 when this whole thing started. One, especially, I mean, we as freelancers do have shoot days and non-shoot days, and we do have a lot of free time where we are at home doing nothing. But this was very different. One felt totally useless because one didn't know when the work is going to start, what is the situation is going to be like in the coming months. I was saying no to projects, and I've never said no to projects, because of fear or because of any other reason. Probably ideological, but. So it was very this thing, and then one is just playing around with the camera at home, and you start shooting stuff. And then there was this one uh, art festival online when they were looking for some videos and stuff, and I spoke to somebody, said that so he said, if you have a video, then you can probably make a film and then show us. And then that's when I started shooting, and I said I'll start shooting, and then I realized. And then, as a cinematographer, you're always looking at light and how light changes you, and how but even in a lockdown where light comes and goes, there was still a monotony. So, and the lockdown continued. Even when the lockdown opened, you were at home. Monsoon came in. Monsoon came and went, but you were still at home. So it was primarily just my space, which was for me was the first time I ever kind of let the camera come into my space. So it was a new experience. I'm not used to that. One is used to going to other people and talking about their work. So I'm not there in the film. It's just objects and things. Probably just a few shots of my cats. But other than that, it was just how light kind of. I was observing light as a filmmaker slash cinematographer during the lockdown, sitting at home, and sometime it would excite me, sometime it would give me a feel of monotony. Uh, but there was some kind of play which let me, kind of go on in this kind of disturbed scenario that I was in.
Right. I mean, cameramen have this, camera persons have this way of observing and making light a character in their work, whether it's fiction or non-fiction. And your film has that kind of way of looking at light, the way it falls on objects and different spaces in your home, indoors and outdoors. Whether the sun is moving, there are a lot of play with time itself, those time lapse shots or the slow motion shots that you work with. And there is that sense of one, just that sense of observation and also a sense of boredom that you are mentioning here, by yourself, looking at things and waiting for something to happen. And the film doesn't really give you any respite that this is moving towards some kind of a development, some kind of a climax where you might get out of this or something might happen. It just doesn't. It's like our lives these days, and I believe you're sitting in the same space where you shot the film. So the film starts and ends in in the less than 6 minutes, and you've chosen not to use any voice at all, any voice, any text, any dialogue. So do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, primarily I wanted to use just sounds, and I well, incidentally, I didn't have any sound recording device with me, so a lot of it is just me recording on my phone or on the SLR that I had. The audio quality isn't that great. Well, it was the I mean, the sound and the way the film was edited. I would really want to thank Ankur Ahuja, who edited the film. And there was a lot of back and forth in the kind of sounds that we wanted to use. From the sound of the pressure cooker going off to the cat sound or the sound of the rain or people passing by. Television sound of the neighborhood and stuff. So it was just those or of us just walking with ourselves and stuff. So those are very repetitive sounds that you see here every day in the morning of sweeping this thing, and we are doing all of that ourselves, and all of that is very repetitive, and yet it gives you the feel of the life that you are the feel of the situation that you are in right now. So the idea was just to use that. There is a very small bit of music in use, but that's also me just playing the guitar and recording it on the phone and just strumming. So it's almost like there is somebody who's just playing some kind of music and stuff. So it's a very why would anybody want to see a upper middle class Delhi person going through something in lockdown when the entire country at that point of time was going through so much, much worse than what, and I was not able to go out and wasn't doing any of that. Uh, so so for me it was like, why would anybody want to see this? So I thought that what the least I could do is just be true to what I am going through right now. If it works, works. If it doesn't work, doesn't work. Let me at least start shooting, recording sounds, and see and try and put something together.
Sure. Okay, so we'll come back to you, Harmeet, and I'd like to bring in Ridhima at this point of time. And your film, Heartbroken Lover or Dil Toota Ashik, Ridhima, is it's a very 2021 film, in terms of its characters, in terms of its situation, in terms of the language your main characters speak, which is these two young brothers in their early 20s, they look like, Rahul and Divyanshu, who run this cafeteria called Dil Toota Cafe, which I'd like to request you to talk about. And just their personalities, their body language, their involvement in, in the social media and rap music, in this entire context of COVID-19 that we are still in, unfortunately, and looks like we will be in for a while, in all foreseeable future. So tell me about how you found these two brothers and this entire cafeteria, and what was your research process, and what made you decide that you'd make a film on the two of them?
Um, Finding them and finding about the cafe was actually a very happy accident. We were actually working very seriously towards submitting another film for the PSBT challenge. And that is something we had taken a couple of months to do, and we submitted that. But I think about 6 or 7 days before the PSBT deadline, we just came across this article in the newspaper about the Dil Toota Ashik cafe in Dehradun. which has apparently taken the town by storm. And we were just intrigued by it, so we decided to go there and meet them.
Sorry
And
to interrupt. Is Dehradun your hometown, and is that where you are right now?
Dehradun is where I have now been cooped up for a year. In some senses, I was living in Pune earlier, but because of developments around COVID and all, I have been here and I've been working from home. So Dehradun is where now I have been since 2020, the first few months of 2020. Yeah. So we came to know about the cafe. We went and met them, and it was minutes into the conversation with them that we realized that they were not just very colorful people, both of them, um, but they had a lot to say. They had a lot to say about the pandemic, the way in which it had affected their lives, the way in which it had done something to their status as lover boys, and what it had done to their relationship, and what it meant for their social media engagement. And we realized that these were some questions that they also then got us to think in some ways differently about the lockdown itself, because and we found that narrative both endearing and compelling, but it was also, that was the parts of it were also kind of evoked a certain kind of discomfort, and but so all of that actually presented very interesting reasons to then make a film, which was made very quickly, which was made in a lot of haste, because like I said, we just kind of stumbled upon them a few days before the deadline. Yeah.
And the entire concept that you have an entire cafeteria run by two young men, almost boy men, not entirely fully adult men as yet, which a cafeteria which is dedicated to the theme of heartbroken young men, where you can come and vent about, and you can put a sticker, cursing your ex-girlfriend who just walked out on you. You can name people, and the kind of hand holding that these men do with each other, two guys who run it and people who bond over this entire aspect, and some of it, like you said, is problematic, where the woman is looked upon as somebody who broke their hearts and walked away, and somebody says that among lovers, 70% of lovers are 70% of people who get involved in love are men, and 30% are women. Where is this coming from? And so there's lots to discuss and analyze over here, but they come across as very, very endearing people who exist around us. And it's not just Dehradun or a B town or a C town thing. It could happen in any of the towns around us, whether it's Delhi or Mumbai. And like I said, the kind of sense of articulation and confidence that the social media has given young people in the last 5 years is very evident, from people who might have been making TikTok videos to now making Insta Reels to now having, this space where you could make your Insta Reels, but also handhold other young men like you who have been jilted, by women who walked out on them and so on. So the villain of the piece is very clear. It's problematic, but at the same time, it's these guys are endearing because, like I said, they're real people. They're really real people, and so on. And Dehradun also, we know, is a very, very significant place with regard to the contemporary political situation. It's a state capital, and so on. And all of that shows. I mean, you can see that the boys are coming from a strong religious affiliation, because one of them wears a big Om sign on his throat as you interview him. What were the thoughts going on in your head while you were speaking to the boys?
So many. As you can imagine, there were many things. There were many utterances. Some of which made it to the film, some didn't, for many reasons, one of which was also the time constraint. It was complex, right? Because you can see that a lot of the things that are being said would evoke discomfort, and are things that you also don't want to endorse, because they shape up all these kinds of things that you brought up, right? Very clearly pinning the blame on the woman, the man as the jilted lover, the man as always the heartbroken ashik, and the woman being the source of trouble, right? It's always the woman who's kind of putting the man in this sort of place, right? And you could also see their experiences, the kinds of pop culture references that they drew upon, their practices of religiosity, all of this which went into the making of themselves as two people, and also the making of the cafe itself as a space. So a lot was going on in my head. It was also interesting because there were moments when I knew they were checking themselves also, because they were primarily interacting with a woman. And there were times when they would be like, "Aapko bura to nahi laga, aap samajh rahe ho na, main kya keh raha hu." So also in some senses very considerate, kind of also taking the trouble to clarify or explain themselves if they feel that they have said something which could be offensive. There is a point in the film where which you also mentioned, where I asked them ki aashik hamesha ladka hota hai kya? So there is a very gendered understanding of love itself, of romance itself, and who an aashik can be. Then there is this whole thing of drawing parallels between the heartbroken and the depressed, and kind of making this into a movement for the heartbroken, which also felt sometimes strange to hear, but you could see where they had a way of making it seem extremely, I want to say something else other than human, but you could actually see all their life experiences kind of feeding into, kind of distilling into whatever they were saying. So a brief but inadequate answer to your question of how it made me feel was that it made me feel a lot of feelings, which...
So you're right.
Yeah.
No, it does, in its very short and concise duration of about 10 minutes or so, it does bring up all these questions. And I really admire the fact, and I really am glad for the fact that the film takes a friendly and empathetic look at its people, and so this is again a discussion that I was having with somebody, that it's very easy to judge people while you're making a film or you're interacting with people and so on, and to be able to leave nuance in it, to be able to start discussions on it and not label people outright, I think is important. I think is really important, and I think your film does that very well. And so yeah, much strength to you, and I look forward to the film getting screened and having more discussions, and I'm sure passionate ones. And have the boys seen the film as yet?
They have. They enjoyed it a lot. They also saw it at a time when they were getting a lot of media attention anyway.
Right.
But this was one of the longer pieces, and they were happy about the fact that it captured, in some senses, their personhood and wasn't just a news bite.
Right. No, it's very nice. It's very nice. It's energetic. It's youthful, and very nuanced. So
Thank you.
That's the thing. So, any last thoughts, both Ridhima and Harmeet? This is a short discussion, and we can talk much more. But about the, I guess, problems of the short film format. Having to say something in 5 minutes or 10 minutes. Any reflections on that, Harmeet?
Yeah, ideally speaking, I would have, I would want each shot to just stay. And that's what I felt at that moment, because time was passing by so slowly and you just wanted to hold on to the shots or the sounds and stuff. But also you knew that this is one era where everything goes, people are watching on their mobiles, and how much their attention span is and stuff like that. All of that is in your head, going on in your head as well. So yes. So very well put, that being able to say whatever you want to, and that also in just few minutes is difficult. But yeah, that's the limitation of the times that we live in, and
Sure, Ridhima?
I felt very constrained by the time format. And that had a lot to do. I thought my paranoia around the subject, and there was this sense of being able to convey our politics through the film, and where we sort of stand, as it were, but also making sure that a sense of their life worlds comes through without any sense of being ridiculed or trivialized. Or and I felt that the 10-minute format, and this was something I felt both very concerned about and limited by. I wasn't very sure if we would be able to do that necessarily within 10 minutes. Because there was so much. I'm sure this happens with a lot of filmmakers and a lot of films, that there's so much, and there's always the possibility of bringing in more. But now when I look, sorry,
continue. I interrupted.
Yeah, but now when I look back at it, maybe the kind of condensed form works. I don't know. We also want to make a longer film out of it and see how that shapes up.
No, it would be interesting. I guess both would be very different films, a longer version of Harmeet's film or yours. But I do think that, the tightness of it gives it a certain kind of edginess, also given the nature of the young people, in it, and the whole social media-ness and so on. And we all want to, have our durations and resources available to be able to tell our stories at leisure and at length. But I go back, again to the entire tradition of documentary filmmaking by organizations like Films Division, where the format was 10 minutes or 20 minutes. And, you had to tell your story very concisely in that. And I feel there's some merit to that. Yeah, there are longer films that can work at a certain pace, but there is a definite sense of tightness that comes, and a certain sense of like I said, it forces you to be more economical when you are given a duration of 10 minutes or 20 minutes. And here you're at the shorter end of 10 minutes, and I think it works. So it would be great if both of you manage to make longer films, out of this subject, and I'll be very, very eager to watch those if those get made or when those get made. So thank you both very much. All the best. And I look forward to screenings of your films and more reactions from a live audience. So all the best.